Hello, hello, hello. So, I look like a total mess, and that is because I actually started packing my makeup today. And as I was packing my eyeshadow palettes, I decided that I wanted to do a video of my favorite palettes before they're totally like inaccessible. Sounds better. For like a month. I'll show you the palettes that I plan to keep out and keep with me until the move, because I will still be wearing makeup, especially, you know, for new job and whatnot. But I thought it would be a perfect time to film this video, so we will go ahead and get started by putting on some chapstick. This is the Lip Freak Coco Loco Mint. It's, I wouldn't say like plumping, but it does make your lips burn a little bit, if that makes sense, and I love it. So it's like totally messed up, as you can see. I think I left it in my car one time. And we also have some iced coffee here, so I'm just gonna be sipping on throughout the video. I like to switch between iced coffee and regular coffee, like hot coffee. If it's in the morning, I tend to drink hot coffee. But if it's like midday, which it is like 3 o'clock right now, I will drink iced coffee. So without further ado, I would just like to warn you that a lot of these palettes are going to be dirty, just because a lot of them are old, I'll be honest, probably past their expiration date, but I refuse to quit using a palette just because it's expired. My eyes have not fallen out yet, so I think I'm okay. So I'm gonna start with the palettes that I'm gonna be keeping with me throughout the move, that I won't be packing up. These are pretty recent purchases. It's just what I think makes the most sense to keep out, and palettes that I really want to use more. So the first ones are the ColourPop Animal Crossing palettes. I'm gonna keep these out because they're small, and there's a bunch of variety of colors in here, so I think it'll be perfect just in case I do have to like pack a palette for some reason, like if I go somewhere overnight, or you know, just things like that. I want to take it to work. I'm not really one of those people that takes my makeup with me places, but I like to prepare for all sorts of circumstances. The main reason I wanted to keep these out, besides the fact that they're super cute, is I believe the What a Hoot palette. This one has just some really pretty brown shades, brown glitters, and just a nice neutral shade right here. So I think that's very important to have at all times. But the other ones, this is La Belle of the Ball. Very cute. These are the Able sisters. If you don't play Animal Crossing, well, you should, because it's really cute. It's really relaxing. I find it to be extremely relaxing. I've been playing Skyrim a lot, though. I think I've mentioned that. So I've kind of slowed down on Animal Crossing, but still a great game. This one is 5-Star Island. I'll be honest, I bought these not whenever they first came out because I didn't get to the website in time, but I bought them on their first restock, and I think whenever they came to Ulta is when I bought them, and I really haven't used them a lot, so I need to use them more. This one is Nook Ink. We've got Tom Nook and the little shop twins. For some reason I'm blanking on their names right now. Like I said, I've been playing Skyrim a lot lately. Everything's Skyrim to me right now. So the next palette is the Natasha Denona Mini Love palette. I love pinks. I feel like they look really good on me, my skin tone, so I just figured I would keep this palette out to get some more use out of it. As you can see, I have not taken this out of the box except for to use it. Normally, I do take my palettes out of their boxes, but this is probably my first and only Natasha Denona palette, so I think I'm just going to keep it together as is. So far they're great, but they're just super expensive, like way overpriced. It is what it is, so unless they go on sale, I won't be purchasing anymore. I believe this tiny little palette was like $25, I want to say. Well, that's just insane to me. But you have seen this in my Sephora haul video, so I won't spend too much time on it. And then, of course, another palette that you've seen recently that I think will just be perfect for just like everyday looks for the time being is this Friends I'll Be There For You palette. As you can see, the shades are very neutral, great for every day, and there are some darker shades so I can create some more like serious, in-depth looks. So I was really impressed with how this worked. Makeup Revolution, their eyeshadows are very like hit and miss for me. Some of them are like super great, and then others are just like chalky and not pigmented whatsoever. But I was really impressed with that one, so I'll keep it out, keep using it. Okay, so now we are getting into the fun palettes, and by that I mean some of these are super old and just I think normal people would probably throw them out, but I would never. I can't. And I'll be honest, I do still use a lot of these palettes no matter how old they are. That's something you'll just never convince me of. Any products with like SPF, obviously those do expire. You should not use those on your face, but you spend so much money on eyeshadow palettes, you know, and a lot of them have like a shelf life of like 12 months, 18 months, and why? Like, it's fine. However, I am not a professional. I am not a dermatologist or any sort of scientist or doctor, so I can't tell you 100% that using expired eyeshadow will not hurt you, but you can make your own choices, and I can make mine, so I choose to continue using $50 palettes after the 18-month expiration date. Okay, so this first palette is, all of these obviously are one of my favorites, of course, but this is the Norvina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I love ABH palettes so much. I think that they definitely have the best shadow formula, like, by far. And I love their color stories. They're beautiful. So, as you can see, I have hit pan on a couple of these shades, which is crazy because I don't hit pan on anything. I have so many palettes that it's almost impossible for me to get, like, the full use out of them. But I usually hit pan on the lighter shades because once I find, like, a base eyeshadow, I reuse it. I use it for every look, even if I'm using, like, a different shadow palette. I don't know why I'm like that, but I am. But I love this shade right here. This is Soul, and it is the perfect, like, crease shade. It's so beautiful. I just love this entire story, honestly. I think, like, a lot of people, whenever this palette first came out, they were like, well, how does that mustardy yellow fit into it? But it looks so good with the purple shades and with this little, like, brick shade right here. Oh, I love this palette. The shimmers in it are amazing. ABH really knows what they're doing with shimmers. I know there are a few more Norvina palettes out now, but God, I've been eyeing the Norvina, I think it's the Volume 2 palette, for a long time. But my makeup purchasing has, believe it or not, slowed down quite a bit. So, there's the first one. And keeping with the theme, we've got Modern Renaissance, which, this palette, there was a time whenever my partner and we were long distance, and so I would go and visit him every, month or so, and I would stay the weekend, and this palette is what I took with me every single time I went. Every time. Again, you can see the lighter shades I've hit pan on. I don't know what it is about the base shades in these Norvina palettes. I mean, not Norvina, ABH palettes. But I just always get into a groove with them. But I love the red shades in this palette. They go really well with this orange shade. And this one is called Venetian Red. It's gorgeous. I've created some of the most beautiful looks with this palette right here. I love it. It's perfect for every day. I think this little chunk missing out of it, I did that whenever I first got this palette, and I was so upset. Like, so pretty. So, love Modern Renaissance. This one actually has a shelf life of 6 months. The Norvina has a shelf life of 18 months. I'm not sure why that is. If you know why that is, please let me know, because I feel like that's a big difference. The ABH palettes, these have been felt. I do have the Sultry palette as well. It's not one of my favorites. It's a pretty palette, but it was pretty boring. But another palette that's great for like every day. But they are felt. These two. And like Soft Glam, it was felt too. I actually don't have Soft Glam. But Sultry, it was like glittery on the outside. I'm not gonna lie, I think that was one of the only reasons I bought that palette. So I loved the glitter packaging. And so our final ABH palette that I love is pretty crazy. It's a mess. Like, do not say anything about how messy this palette is. But it is the lip palette. I love the versatility of this palette. I've used it so much. You can see the last few shades that I created. You can make anything with this palette. I've used this palette for definitely more than just my lips. I love to use it for like liners. So if I'm doing any kind of like face art, I like to make my own shade and then use it for lining and just, you know, artsy stuff. I've used it for my eyebrows to make my eyebrows like a crazy color. This palette is great. It was a really big thing whenever it first came out, and I definitely slept on it for a while. Like, I did not get it until I saw it in TJ Maxx, I think, and it was like $20, so I was like, why not, you know, because I think regular it was like $45, I want to say. I don't even know if they still sell this palette or make it, but it's definitely perfect for those of us who like to get creative with colors. You can make pretty much any color, any shade with this. So definitely a great palette to have. This has a shelf life of 12 months. I've definitely had this for at least 3 years. Normally I do clean this top, but I can tell you exactly what this shade is from. I did a like Poison Ivy lazy cosplay like 6 months ago, I think, and that's what that is from, and this one as well. So we've got quite a few to get through, so I'm gonna go ahead and hurry it up. Next we have the Zulu palette by Juvia's Place. Juvia's Place is an amazing brand, very affordable, very pigmented. Like, these palettes are no joke. So I've actually got 3 that I want to show you from Juvia's Place that I always reach for, and I'll tell you the shades that make me reach for them. Is this orange and this yellow. Perfect shades. I love yellow a lot. I don't know if I'm sure I've said that, but for a long time it was really hard to find a good yellow shade that actually showed up and was actually pigmented and bright, and this is it. Like, this is the yellow of everything. So the yellow and orange, I love those shades. I also love this turquoise shade, but I look terrible with turquoise. I'm not sure why, but it looks so bad on me. regardless. But I do love that shade. It's very like a retro-y yellow. I mean, not yellow, turquoise. I just imagine this turquoise with like a light pink is very like 90s to me. I love it. I usually keep the plastic in most of my palettes, especially ones that I don't use very often. But anytime I do like a colorful look, I definitely reach for these palettes. We've got the Saharan Volume 2, also by Juvia's. Oh, it's so beautiful. Look at these. Look at how gorgeous that is. Look at this red and this blue, this shimmery blue. I could just eat them, you know, like I get like that. I see a color and it looks delicious. So pretty. So this one is Zora, and this one is, I can't pronounce this one. I'm not even gonna try. I will butcher it, but it is gorgeous. Oh, and this one is Berber. I just love this palette. I love those shades. And then last, from Juvia's Place, we've got the Masquerade Mini. I think this is the first Juvia's Place palette that I bought. So, in this palette, this shimmery purple and this hot pink is amazing, totally gorgeous to me. And this hot pink, I think you can see it. It's got like golden yellow shimmer in it. Pink and yellow is the perfect shades together. So gorgeous. I love this entire palette. Half is definitely like crazier colors. The other half is, you know, just your basic neutrals. This orange shade right here, Cairo. Oh, it's beautiful. I love this palette. The Molly shade, gorgeous. Just the whole thing is just so pretty. I'm actually going to swatch this one for you. The first one we're going to swatch is Bori, which is that pink shadow with the yellow flecks in it. Just so pretty. And I'm also going to get this purple shadow that I told you about. Look at that. You can't tell me that it's not the prettiest shimmer purple that you've ever seen. I can't do it justice. It's gorgeous. So, just for fun, we're gonna do Molly 2, the green shimmer. So pretty. I have to quit saying I love this palette because obviously so that completes the Juvia's Place. Next, I'll move on to this Lime Crime palette. This is the Venus XL palette. This is actually a gift to me. And by gift, I mean I told my partner, hey, Lime Crime is having a sale on the Venus XL palette. I've wanted it for so long. And so he bought it. So that's what I mean by gift. I hinted at it pretty heavily. But this palette is so pretty. I use a lot of these shades for everyday. Now, by that I mean I don't use this palette every day, but these are perfect, like just a neutral daily look. Because I do like pinks. I love pinks and I love mauves for just daily wear. This palette is just filled with them. I don't think there's a single shade in this palette that I haven't used. So pretty. Not to mention the packaging is gorgeous. I don't have a lot of Lime Crime products except for like matte liquid lipsticks from whenever they went on sale, and this palette, and I think I have another eyeshadow palette, but I wasn't super impressed with it. But this one's great. I'm pretty sure there is some drama surrounding the Lime Crime brand. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not gonna say that I don't focus on makeup drama, but it's gotta be like pretty controversial for me to hear about it. I don't like go searching for it, if that makes sense. But this palette is very pretty and great for everyday. Gorgeous packaging. So, very pretty. Very, very pretty. This one I've only had for, I guess, 3 years now. The shelf life on this one is 24 months, which I believe is the highest that we've seen. So this next palette is super old, and I think it was one of the first big, not big, it was like one of my first palettes that I bought. This is the Carly by Bell BH Cosmetics palette. I used this like crazy whenever I got it. So it's got 10 shadows, of course, the base shade, Hit Pan, but then it's got 4 highlighters / bronzers, and I used this entire thing. Like, that's crazy to me. I loved this highlighter so much that I ended up buying. BH came out with the Carly by Bell Deluxe Edition, which is just this palette plus some more shades. And I believe I used this highlighter all up as well. It was like this light, like pink champagne color, which I really feel like was the perfect highlight shade for me. Now I don't really highlight so much, but used to, oh my gosh, I highlighted way too much. But this was my favorite one. It doesn't even have names on it, so I can't even tell you what its name is, but it's so pretty. That was pretty much like the main reason I loved this palette. The rest of these shades are okay, but this highlight, incredible. So I can't say I use this palette anymore, but I wanted to show it to you. Now, speaking of highlighters, this is my favorite highlighting palette. I do not really have, I think This and one other palette is all I have for highlighting palettes. I normally buy single highlighters just because the palettes, they don't really have a lot that I can use, but the ABH Moonchild palette is like the perfect highlight palette to me. At least it used to be. The shades are a little, like, what's the word? Like, very icy and very, like, out there highlighters, I guess. I think that these purple shades were definitely my favorites. These pans are super deep. I can tell you I used this palette every day for at least a year. Didn't pan on any of them, which is saying a lot because, like I said, I used to highlight an insane amount. Now this one, Lucky Clover. I'm not sure if you can see that, if it really captures it on camera, but it is just a white highlighter, but it does have like green shimmer in it. It's very pretty, very pretty. I do use this sometimes still, just not, it has to be like a pretty crazy look for me to use this. I do feel like these shades are like very targeted for like more nighttime makeup, I guess, if that makes sense. So I love this palette. This has a shelf life of 12 months, and I've definitely had this for 4 years at least. It was a gift to me from my partner for our first Christmas together. So, there's that. Now, the next two palettes, we've only got 4 left, but they are the most important palettes for their own reasons. So first, we've got the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette. Now, this palette was actually gifted to me through a secret Santa at my job ages ago, like at least 6 years ago. But I thought it was so sweet because, number one, I love makeup, of course, and I love Gwen Stefani. Like, how I love her. God, I mean, maybe my feelings have changed since the whole Blake Shelton thing, I'll be honest, but Gwen Stefani is like the ultimate just girl's idol, if that makes sense. Like, I just love her. So this was a Secret Santa gift, which the limit for this Secret Santa was, I believe, $15. And I don't know about you, I don't know if you can tell, but this palette, being Urban Decay, is definitely more than $15. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Urban Decay anything, really. But this palette will always have some special meaning for me. It says just Urban Decay Gwen Stefani. I thought that this would be like a whole like thing about the palette, but it's not. So it says magics in the makeup. I used this palette quite a bit, actually. It's really not bad. It is obviously very neutral, which, I don't know, Gwen Stefani just doesn't scream neutrals to me, but if you've noticed, just based off of the Urban Decay Prince release, it's a boring company. I'll be honest, it's totally boring. I don't think I'm the only one that gets that vibe from Urban Decay, but their collabs are never anything to go crazy about. So like I said, this palette is definitely more sentimental to me than anything else. Next is also an Urban Decay palette, but this palette was the first eyeshadow palette I ever bought. I think I bought this in 2015, I want to say. So this is the first like high-end palette that I bought that wasn't like on Black Friday. It wasn't I think it was on sale. Obviously I wouldn't have bought it if it wasn't, but this is the first like major palette purchase that I made. It's the Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette. The packaging is gorgeous. I definitely fell in love with that. But there was a time whenever I would not buy eyeshadow palettes unless, I think this is what started it, honestly, but I would not buy eyeshadows unless they were like crazy colors, you know, because I was like, what's the point if I'm gonna spend my money on it and it needs to be like insane, you know? And I used to do my makeup so crazy, like every single day. I really need to get back to that. I think life is too short to wear boring makeup every day. But this is the Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette. I'll be honest, this palette is not great. These shades are super chalky. They just have no pigment whatsoever. Like, it looks great like that, but then if I swatch it, it's like just terrible. Like, that is not the same shade to me. It takes a lot to build this up, and like they're super hard to blend because like it just fades whenever you blend it out. So this palette is not good. But it was my first major palette purchase, so I will keep it until the day that I die. It says Full Spectrum Beauty with an Edge. Now, these next palettes, I have always made such a huge deal about these palettes. Like, wow, this is my holy grail eyeshadow palette. Like, my ride or die, my everything. This is the Morphe 35B. And if you know anything about Morphe, if you've been like a part of, I wouldn't say like a part of the makeup community, but like if you follow makeup, this palette, first of all, was discontinued. They would only bring it out for like special occasions, or they also took these shades, and I believe they're the shades from the Pride palette by Morphe, which I also have, of course. But this palette was so hard to find. I literally had to wait forever until they finally re-released it. And I think you'll see why whenever I show it to you. Look at that. It's just a whole palette of the rainbow. Like, I love this palette so much. This is the one, whenever I say I love this palette, this is the one where you can take me totally serious on. I use this palette for everything still to this day. I've had this palette for at least 5 years. 4 or 5 years. Probably 5. And I always find uses for it. I love doing crazy, colorful looks. And this palette is it. This is it. I think, honestly, though, it was because it was so hard for me to get is the reason why I love it even more. So like I said, they discontinue it, right? Like, they don't have this on their site at all times. I'm not even like a huge Morphe fan, but I waited and waited and waited for this palette to be offered again. And so it's been discontinued, right? That's what they do. And then a few months ago, they announced a new collab. Morphe's always doing collabs. This is a big thing now. I mean, makeup is so recycled. Like, the colors are recycled and the stories are recycled. So the only thing left to do now is to do collabs with these different companies and different things, like from our childhoods and, you know, just stuff that is gonna sell, which I love. I love collabs. I'm a sucker for them. So Morphe announced a Lisa Frank collab with none other than the 35B. So whenever this was announced, I freaked out because not only is it Lisa Frank, I love Lisa Frank. I have a Lisa Frank sticker on my car. I have Lisa Frank coloring books. Like, I've always loved Lisa Frank. It's so cute. And Lisa Frank was a big part of my childhood, personally, you know. I'm 25, so I was born in 96, and Lisa Frank was just so popular whenever I was in school. Notebooks were Lisa Frank, backpacks were Lisa Frank, lunchboxes, everything was Lisa Frank, folders, you name it. As a kid, basically we didn't have like a whole lot of money, so like I couldn't always get like Lisa Frank stuff. I did have a Lisa Frank folder, which I loved. I was so excited about. But Lisa Frank was just always such a big part of my childhood. And whenever this collection, this collab was announced, I knew I had to have it. And it was none other than the 35B. So literally, this palette, plastic still, obviously, this palette is literally just this one. It's the same thing. That's gonna be a thumbnail. So, it's the same thing. It's the same exact palette. And I knew I had to have it. I had to. Because eyeshadow, I mean, maybe that's why the shelf life is important, because this just doesn't perform the way it did whenever I first got it, which is fine, it happens. Eyeshadows get chalkier, they dry out, but this was my opportunity to get the 35B again in Lisa Frank packaging. How could I pass that up? So it says, "Color your world. It was a magical day when Morphe met the rainbows and whimsy of Lisa Frank's fantastic world. From bright bursts of blue to the perfect pop of pink, every shade of your imagination is in this palette. Let your most vibrant dreams come true." So cute. Obviously, it's got the little heart-shaped mirror, which I think was like the perfect touch. And then it also has, this palette belongs to just like the stuff when we were in school. So cute. It's the cutest collab. I also bought the like makeup bag / brush set, and you always see me using those brushes. I don't think I've shown you the makeup bag, but I will. Someday I'm sure it'll come up. But like these brushes right here, these are the Lisa Frank brushes, all part of the brush set. I think it came with 5 or 6 brushes plus the makeup bag. Even though I love collabs, I never buy like the entire collection. So there's always something that I don't need. But those are my favorite palettes. Those are the ones that I always reach for, the ones that have meant a lot to me throughout time, even if I don't use them anymore. So I do hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some tingles. If nothing else, I just hope you liked hanging out with me, listening to me talk about makeup. And if you have any feedback, requests, or if you just need someone to talk to, let me know. I'm always around. Thank you so much. I hope you are very relaxed. I hope you are very happy. And I hope you have a good day and a good night. Bye bye.